A developer in Vancouver with $700 million in debt is going bankrupt. This is something I talked about a long time ago, and I said lots of these over-leveraged developers are going to go bust, and it's starting to happen. The dominoes are starting to fall. So let's dig into this news story, which is being suppressed right now. I haven't seen it being passed around widely, and it's not being reported by the mainstream media either. So many new homes at risk as major Vancouver developer files for insolvency, which basically means they're going to go bankrupt at the current trajectory. In what could be the first start of a new phase of the turbulent period in Metro Vancouver's housing market, Coromandel Properties is insolvent based on its new filing from the Supreme Court of British Columbia seeking protections. Now, the funny thing, I don't know much about the Vancouver and BC and bankruptcy and how it all works there. I'm sure many of you do, and you can comment below. But what's interesting about this is the corruption that seems that is at play. There's a lot more that meets the eye of this story. So we'll continue to dig into it here. In a statement to Daily Hive Urbanized, the major local real estate developer, which primarily pursues condominium projects, says it's looking to reposition itself through the Stream of Companies Creditors Association Act, CCAA. So it's interesting that they're mainly in condominiums, because think about investor ownership of property. We know investors really like condominiums, especially foreign investors. And since the foreign investor tax came in British Columbia, you've really seen the housing market sort of flatline. It's corrected slightly, and then of course 2021, 2020, the stimulus boom, it just went to the moon like pretty much everywhere within Canada. But when you think about condominiums, this is the preferred asset for an investor, or should I say a speculator, because there isn't really any investors left in Canada. It's mainly just speculators, because an investment is something that pays you to own it. A speculation is something where you're thinking, oh, I'm going to sell this to the greater fool at a higher price. And it's important to note that you can do either. I speculate all the time, and I also have investments. But when you think about these people, they don't even understand what they're doing. They don't even understand that they're speculating and the risk associated with doing that, with the kinds of money that we are talking about. $600,000, $700,000, millions of dollars potentially, is just a disaster. Of course, these risks aren't explained either. If the court grants their request for protection, Coromandel will walk towards restructuring its finances and advance its operations, reads the statement following an inquiry made by Daily Hive Urbanized on Tuesday. And they're really the only news media company that I've seen reporting on this. I had a Google search this morning to see if this had been picked up by anybody. I was lucky that I came across this article, because if I missed this article, it really wasn't widely reported. And you know, you're talking about a lot of money that is at stake here, so let's have a look. Since being active with acquiring properties a decade ago, the developer has amassed a significant portfolio with 16 active real estate projects, all located within Vancouver, now in possible risk. Many of these projects are located within the Cambie Street corridor, including near Oak Ridge. The petition retrieved by Daily Hive Urbanized states that there is a combined total of about $700 million in outstanding debt secured against these projects, with each project subjected to various secured loans registered against the land. So essentially they've took on lots of debt against the land, so it is secured by an asset, so you would think anyways. But that asset, what is it likely doing right now? It's likely declining in value. And who will end up taking the loss if they do go bankrupt? It will be the banks. And this is just a start of many, many developers who are going to go bankrupt, because they are all extremely over leveraged. And when I've done videos on the past, people have said, no, they're not. All these developers, they have loads of cash loot. You're just fear mongering, and it's not like that at all. they're very much kind of structured in a way that is similar to the ones in China. Surprise, surprise. I mean, it's no coincidence that that's the case. So there's some more just insanely shady stuff going on. The company's leaders include Zhong Zhenyu, who is the director, and former Vancouver City Councillor Raymond Louis, who is the chief operating officer. I mean, does that not just scream some sort of shady stuff going on there? You got former Vancouver City Councillors sitting on the board of a real estate developer. Like, okay, yeah. I'll leave you to think about what that can mean. We know the corruption is rife within Canada. It's just nobody wants to talk about it. It's like a taboo subject. But the corruption is just there and it's happening, believe it or not. In the petition, the developer asserted the City of Vancouver's expensive and slow approval processes are at least partly at fault of the firm's precarious situation, including years-long uncertain rezoning application reviews that involve lengthy negotiations with city staff on the allocated community amenity contributions, CACs. You know, what is really interesting is we're going to go into like the investor ownership in BC because it's absolutely insane in a minute. But what's really interesting is this developer that owned this condominium project not far away from where we're at in Calgary, essentially they went bankrupt. And what that did to the values of the property there, they absolutely plummeted. And I'll tell you why. It was because the building actually had some structural issues. And then I guess because there was no developer to go to and say, hey, you built the thing wrong, and now you got to come and fix it. Essentially what happened was the residents had to pay via the condo fees for fixing these problems. So even people who are in buildings who are built by this company, if this company goes under, that could present an issue. Now, I'm not sure it works the same way in BC. I would think there's a lot more bureaucracy and red tape that is involved, and maybe something that protects you from that. But it's definitely a risk that can happen in certain provinces when these condo developers go under, because there's just nobody to go back to and complain to. So I think that's something of note, which is really, really interesting, because the value of the condos within that complex where the developer went bust, because the condo fees were like ridiculous. They were over $1,500 for like a 2 or a 3 bedroom suite because of the repair bills for the building. So they were going for like 50% less than market value. So, you know, and I don't like condos. I've expressed this before. I absolutely cannot stand condos. A lot of people think they're great. It's a great entry point for people. And I just think it's a Ponzi scheme, because in 25, 30 years time, these condo fees for any condominium building is just going to be absolutely insane. But people are thinking, I'm not going to own that by then. But they're not thinking about it and really thinking it through. Well, who is going to own it then? Because at some point, somebody is not going to be able to sell, or is going to have to sell at significant discounts because of the fees. And it's just like this. It's a Ponzi scheme, essentially what it is. And all the corruption on these condo boards as well, people have actually come through this channel and explained to me what goes on behind the scenes of condo board members taking handouts, you know, taking on contractors that are doing the job for 20% more and then getting a kickback off them in cash, because corruption is just rife within Canada. God, it seems like it's absolutely everywhere, and I just think it's disgusting, and it's destroying this country completely, and it's just the absolute insane amount of greed that people have these days is just, yeah, it's unbelievable. So anyway, let's take a look at this. So Vancouver, this is BC residential real estate owned by investors, and this is in 2021 during the mania, the peak of the mania. So we're going to take a look here. So Vancouver had 23.5% of total supply owned by investors. Absolutely crazy, isn't it? But it is 23.5%. And then Vancouver's new construction was 44% bought by investors. So there you go, folks. Like, investors are not participating in the market as much, or speculators, as I should call them. I should really stop calling them investors, because that is giving them a name which they're not. They don't even deserve that, because they're not even investing. But it is 44% of the new construction sales in 2021 were going to these investors. So, and now you've got loads of people who can't complete on these properties moving forward as well, and that's just going to present more and more issues for these developers as we move down the line. And actually, I've got a video coming out about that. And if you want to, you know, this chart just kind of tells you where debt has gone within private enterprises, and it's just absolutely skyrocketed. So if you're ever in doubt that a business has a lot of debt, just look at this chart, because it really tells the story of where debt has gone on private businesses in Canada, especially those real estate ones, because a lot of this, the values have gone so insane and so much into the stratosphere that people have to take on debt. They have to take on loans in order to conduct these type of businesses, and the banks love it. They've loved it. They've loved it. Give me those loans. Give me those loans. And they're making fat fees on them. Excuse me. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Kind of a breaking news story that I wanted to give to you. I wasn't going to do a stream today. This wasn't planned. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this, you might like this video here. You might also like that video there. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this just madness going on right now. Is this the start of the dominoes starting to fall here in Canada when it comes to these real estate developers? See you in the next one. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.